an approach to make the customer feel that we are not against them, right? What we are trying to do is make the customer feel that we are with them. We are going to find out where the problem is coming from. We are there to help them out. Yes? We are not going to defend the bill because the worst thing that could happen is that the customer would feel like, as the what they have expected is you defending the bill, is that you will justify why the bill is so high, that they will just receive an explanation, but at the end of the day, they will still pay, or they are going to be forced to pay the whole bill, even though they've never consented to have new charges added on the bill. So that is what we're trying to get rid of. Yes? All right, so we have been trying to master that, polish our approach, polish our rebuttals, polish our scripts. But there is another problem that most experts, most representatives encounter whenever they're dealing with billing disputes types of call scenarios, or why is my bill so high scenarios. And this is when they've been trying to explain to the customer what those charges are, but for some reason, the customer doesn't just want to accept those charges. They keep asking the same questions over and over. So you are going to be explaining those charges again, right? Probably two, three, four times. And just when you thought that everything is clear, customer will ask again where that charge is coming from. Do you agree? Does that make sense? Surely you have experienced that. Right? And the problem with these types of calls, it eats up a lot of your AHT, your CHT, your handling time. And at the end of the call, right, towards the end, you and your customer will not agree, and the customer will request for a supervisor. 50% of the time, that is what the call is all about. Customer wants the bill properly explained, and you are forced to de-escalate. Like, in other accounts, you'll be forced to tell your customer, well, the supervisor is going to be telling you the same thing. And that frustrates the customer even more. And on other accounts, not just once, but you will have to de-escalate twice or three times with the same spiel. Customer will explain this to you and tell this to you, just like how I did. What do you think the customer would feel? Think about it. You've been talking to that customer for like 30 minutes to an hour already. Do you think you guys will have an agreement that the customer doesn't need a supervisor to explain the bill to them anymore? I doubt it. And the problem with the supervisor, it's gonna be really, really stressful. It's gonna be really, really toxic, right? Because by the time that he gets to receive the call, that customer is already irate. If they're not irate already from the start of the call. Does that make sense? All right. So it's a trust issue. Customer just doesn't believe you. In their head, right? You're just coming up with charges because they can't see it. And some of you would probably say, well, I'm looking at my system right now. I'm looking at my computer right now, on my monitor right now, and it's showing blah, 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 blah. These are charges made from this date and on that date, and the amount is this. Now, you cannot blame the customer if they don't trust you because they cannot see what you're looking at. They're just basing that information from what they hear from you. And if they don't like you, if they don't like what they hear, which most likely is the reason, right? They don't want to pay for those charges, whether it's true or it's a valid charge, right? They don't want to hear it. They don't like it. That's why they keep on asking. For some reason, those charges would not register in their heads because bottom line, they don't want to pay for it. Or they just don't trust you. Make sense? Now, to prevent that from happening, my suggested approach, remember when you're doing your assurance, right? Your response, and before you get into the part where you verify the account, I want you to add one more thing. Ask them if they have a copy of the bill in front of them. All right. So how does that go? Well, all right. Well, John, do you have a copy of your bill in front of you? The answer might be two things, right? Yes or no. If they say yes, then there's no problem. You go ahead and proceed. Right? Simply acknowledge with good or perfect. So let me do that again. Well, John, do you have a copy of your bill in front of you? And then the customer says, oh, yes, I do. And I will acknowledge with perfect. Right? Let's go through that bill together. Let me just grab a copy. Right? So what I'm saying is I'm gonna grab or get a copy of the bill, right? That looks like the one that he has. That way, we're looking at the same thing. Does that make sense? All right. So what if the customer says, no, I don't have a copy right now? My approach would be, what would there be a way that you can get a copy? You can download it through the app, or you can log online. Can you do that? That's going to be my next probing question. So the answer might be two things, yes or no, right? If yes, I would do the same thing that I did earlier. I would say perfect. So we'll be looking at the same bill and we can go through that bill together. Yes? And then the customer will agree, yes. So we agreed on another thing again. If the customer says, no, there's no way I can get a copy of your bill, right? My approach would then be, okay, well, that's fine. Well, if you allow me, I'll just get a copy and we will base it on that, okay? And then the customer will say yes, because he doesn't have a choice, right? But remember how I do my approach? Let me get a copy of that bill. Let me do that again. Let me get a copy of that bill so we can go through it together. So in the customer's mind, you're simply going to get a copy, an exact copy of the bill that we sent to him. What we're trying to avoid is that you're looking at a different thing and we sent the customer a different copy of the statement. Because that's where the struggle comes from. That's where the mistrust comes from. Does that make sense? All right. So billing dispute is going to be a difficult scenario if you have not set proper expectation, if you are not able to build trust. Because in your customer's head, you're one of those representative that will simply read the bill that they don't have any copy, right? You're going to make up charges that they'll be forced to pay without their approval or without their consent, right? We want to get rid of that feeling. What we want our customer to feel is we're going to go through that bill, the same bill that they have a copy of to build trust. Does that make sense? All right. So before you verify the account, before you pull up the account, make sure you have an agreement, you have an understanding that you both are going to be looking at the same bill. So when you're dealing with the customer, let's say you have pulled up the account already, right? Try to avoid saying that I'm looking at my system based from my end, right? Try to avoid those things. It won't work. It creates mistrust because what you're seeing from your end is not what they're seeing from their end. All right, so how do we deal with this? I'm pretty sure, like we with our account, we can get a copy, right? A PDF copy of the bill that we sent them. I know you can view those charges on your system, right? Whether well, we do have our tool, yes, but I would like you to start reviewing that bill with the PDF copy. So how would I do it? All right, so Mr. Customer, I was able to pull up the account. Let me just pull up a copy of your bill. Okay. All right, so I'm looking at the copy of your bill right now, dated May. Due date is going to be on the 31st. Yes, that is the same copy that you have, right? And the customer would say, yeah. All right, cool. So on page one, all right, make sure you mention the page. that will make the customer feel like you are really looking at the bill. All right, so we're looking at page one of your bill. It says here total charges for May. It says there the due date. So let's go through those charges. Okay. All right. So we do have here your rate plan is this. The phones that you have with us are these. These are the charges. Yes. Right. So go through the basics. And they would say, yeah, that's right, and mention the amount. So your total bill monthly should only be this amount, like what you said, yes? Right, so this is the expected bill. So we are looking at that $50 difference. Let's go ahead and find out where that charge is coming from. Let's look at other charges. It's also on the first page, right beneath those charges that we mentioned earlier. All right, so what we're trying to make sure that we're not going to be talking about rate plans. We're not going to be talking about phones or other accessories or all those other services that they have enrolled in, that they have approved on being charged in their account, because these are going to be like monthly charges. So we want to make those go away because you and the customer already agreed that those are valid charges. You are simply going to work on other charges, and you'll be surprised. If the customer has a copy of their bill, they will go through it with you because most of the time they don't look at those descriptions, those other charges, right? So they're gonna go through it with you, and most of the time they will tell you where the other charge is coming from. Oh, I see here these are like these charges, right? It looks like an additional service. It looks like blah 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 blah, an additional charge that I made, international call, or an accessory added on the account. And then you can discuss that, right? And how would I approach it? I would ask, all right, there it is. I can see it. Can you see it too? Well, if the customer doesn't have a copy of the bill, all right, so it's on page two. It's right there, right? In the middle, it says there the charge is blank on this date. Now, the follow-up question will always going to be, did you authorize this charge? Remember, we want to stay at a good side of your customer, right? We want to be on their good side. All right, so I see that charge. Can you see it too? All right, so it says here it's dated like this. Yes? So did you authorize this charge? That's how I want it done. That's how I normally have it done. Because if the customer says, yes, I remember that, then that's good. So that's where that $50 is coming from. Yes? All right, and then go on collecting. So how would you like to make a payment for today? And I go through payments. Right? If the customer says no, well, I'd tell the customer, well, it's a good thing that you mentioned that. I'm glad that you called. We don't want you to make payments on charges that you did not authorize. Right? You assume that the customer is telling you the truth because you are on your customer's side. And besides, even if you feel like that charge is valid, it is really pointless to tell your customer, no, no, you approve this. Right? This is a valid charge. There's no way my company made a mistake. You can't do that. Customer always has the right to dispute charge. Right? So if you ask them, is this charge valid? Did you authorize it? And the customer says, no, I can't remember. Well, it's a good thing that you called us. Right? We don't want you to pay for charges you did not authorize. So I will have this disputed for you. Right? We don't want you to pay for charges that you think you did not authorize. We are going to have this investigated, and we will let you know of the results. All right. So if you think that would work, right, let me know. I want to know if you agree.